There's been a lot going on in my life personally and in the news, and I did not get around to this story. But earlier this week, Donald Trump made a statement about the Jewish community in America, and it's been pretty alarming, and I'm surprised that he hasn't been canceled.
Any Jewish person that votes for her, especially now, her or the Democrat Party, should have their head examined. If I don't win this election, and I've been very good, they say Trump's been right about everything. In my opinion, the Jewish people would have a lot to do with the loss.
He just said, if I do not win this election, blame it on the Jews. Now, the Jewish people throughout all of time has been blamed for a lot of things. This is my copy of the 1611 version of the King James Bible. A lot of people blame the Jews and the Romans for the death of Jesus Christ. This is a copy of Mein Kampf by Adolf Hitler. This is the Bible for anti-Semitism. This is the Bible for neo-Nazism. This is the Bible for the KKK and the alt-right and every other Christian conservative faction that you want to think about. And they blame the Jews for a lot of their problems. And again, throughout history, cultures and societies and infrastructures have blamed the Jewish people, not just a Jewish person that did something wrong, but they just blame Jewish people as a whole for their issues. When a financial crisis happened, blame the Jewish people. Bernie Madoff was different. Yes, he was Jewish, but that was different. Blame him for that shit. When a war happened, it's because of the Jews. When, they always blaming the Jewish community. And now Donald Trump is trying to also say, let's tack on the fact that if I lose this election, the Jews are the problem. But if Donald Trump loses this election, it's not the Jewish problem. It's the Republican problem, because you got people like Senator Tom Cotton who just refuses to address the issue at hand and to call it for what it is. And he's constantly trying to defend Trump without really defending him, and also trying to divert the conversation. Here he is on CNN with Jake Tapper doing that very same thing.
Are you comfortable with that? With Donald Trump saying if he loses preemptively, it's the fault of the Jews, a group already experiencing a rise of anti-Semitism in this country, from the left and the right, but still, preemptively, it's the fault of the Jews?
Well, Jake, Donald Trump has been saying things like this for at least 11 months since the October 7th attacks. I think the only reason the Democrats latched onto it this week is they see the polling that reflects Donald Trump winning record high amounts of Jewish voters for Republicans. The point he's been making all along is that any Jewish voter, Christian voter, any other kind of voter who cares about Israel, who cares about a relationship with Israel, should not vote for Kamala Harris and Joe Biden.
Go back and watch that, because he said Donald Trump has been doing this all along. What that meant was, this is who Donald Trump is. And then he did not answer the question. He went from the Jewish community in America to the Jews over in Israel. He diverted the whole question. Jake Tapper caught on to that and tried to correct him.
But I'm not talking about Israel. I'm talking about American Jewish voters. The American Jewish Committee said, quote, whoever a majority of the Jewish community votes for, Jews, roughly 2% of the U.S. population, cannot and should not be blamed for the outcome of the election. I've never heard you say anything like that. If we lose, it will be the fault of the Jews.
But Jake, Donald Trump, again, has been saying for months that anyone who cares about Israel, anyone who cares about the fate of the U.S.-Israel alliance should vote for him. They shouldn't vote for Kamala Harris, because Kamala Harris has consistently been the most anti-Israel voice.
Now, I know you're very smart, and I know you caught on to it now. Again, he's not answering the question. We're not talking about if you care about the Jews or the Christians or whatever. We're talking about his statements. If he lose, blame the Jews. You're not answering the question. Jake Tapper catches on and tries to nail him again.
This administration.
You keep talking about Israel. I'm talking about Jewish voters who vote for any number of reasons on any number of issues.
And he was at an event talking about combating anti-Semitism here and around the world. When was the last time Kamala Harris spoke at an event about combating anti-Semitism?
Again, he didn't answer. And now, instead of talking about the Jews over in Israel, now he wants to divert to Kamala Harris. Watch how Jake Tapper responds, and then listen to his response to that response.
Her husband is Jewish and is in charge of a group about combating anti-Semitism in the United States.
But she's consistently been opposed to what Israel needs to win.
And Jake kind of got caught up with the overseas thing, and then he catches himself and says, wait a minute, let's get back to Trump's statement.
Again, I keep talking about Jewish voters in the United States, and you keep talking about another country.
A lot of Jewish voters, just like a lot of Christian voters, care deeply about the fate of the Jewish nation and the status of our relationship with Israel.
And we can continue to do this because he's never going to answer the question. But now you understand what his talking point is, because Jake questions him again, and he goes right back to the talking point.
Are you comfortable with him blaming it on the Jews preemptively?
The point he is making is that anyone that cares about that relationship shouldn't vote for Kamala Harris. They should vote for him. And again, he's been saying things like this, not just at anti-Semitism events, but speaking to Christians who care about Israel as well for months. The only reason the Democrats have latched onto it is now is that polls show he's winning a record number of
This
Jewish
is the
voters.
first time he has ever said, if I lose, it will be the fault of Jews. This is, believe me, I happen to have a pretty good ear for when people say things like this, and that's the first time he's ever said that. Just yes or no, are you comfortable with him using that language?
Jake, it's the same kind of language he's been using for months.
That doesn't mean it's
Yes,
okay.
but it's his point. Jake, he's the most pro-Israel president we've ever had. He has Jewish grandchildren. Of course.
Kamala Harris has a Jewish husband. That doesn't mean anything to you.
Of course. Well, it means something to you because you brought it up.
And there you have it. The reason why Donald Trump is going to lose this election is not because of what we've done, of what we've said. It's because of what he's done and what they're doing. The American people, don't get scared, MAGA, but the American people are waking up to who he is. The Republican Party is still closed-eyed and closed-mouthed to this, and they're willing to go out and defend it, hoping that it would get them the votes that they need, the funding that they need, and the power that they need to continue their lives. So as long as Donald Trump got a hold of the MAGA conservative Republican movement, the Republicans are going to continue to bow to him until he loses this election. And once he loses in 2024, the Republican Party is going to have no choice but to say, okay, let's find someone a little bit more polished than what he is. Otherwise, we're going to continue to lose. But it's people like Tom Cotton and the Republicans that are continuing to sugarcoat what Donald Trump is saying and doing to try to fit. They're force feeding the GOP, and they're taking it. They're eating it. What do you think?